Well, we have more news coming out of the Lions today, and it's offensive, wouldn't you guess? But Dan Skipper has decided that he is no longer going to be part of the mix. Dan Skipper has been a versatile, dependable Lions piece for years. He is somebody who could step in when injuries hit or provide depth across the line. And now that he's gone, the question immediately becomes, how are the Lions going to replace him? Are they going to rely on the draft, free agency, or are they going to shuffle the existing roster to compensate for this? And let's be clear, with Dan Skipper, this isn't just about one player. It's about the identity of the offensive line and how this could shape the team's season this year, which is a critical season. And with the new OC, and there's a number of things going on in Detroit right now. Skipper, this is a loss to them because he played both tackle and guard. And that's a hole you just can't ignore. My opinion is that the draft is going to be the first place they look. Offensive line prospects are always in high demand. And the Lions have been pretty smart in recent drafts about taking linemen who can develop into starters or immediate contributors. But the draft is a gamble because you're getting a new player, a rookie that could take time to adjust, especially in a league that's as fast and physical as the NFL. So even if they do pick somebody up, and that's not how mock drafts do not have them taking linemen, by the way, but this could change things. There's no guarantee that the player would fill the exact gap that Skipper leaves immediately. And on top of that, we have the bigger question, which is Taylor Decker, because he's been a stalwart for the Lions. But there's also been recent chatter that they might part ways with him for cap space. And also because he didn't have very good ratings this year. If the Lions do move on from Decker, the offensive line could face a double shakeup in a single season. And that's not good news, by the way. If the Lions lose multiple key pieces, everything can take a hit. And then you got Drew Petzing, who's also starting fresh. And I'm concerned that could have a ripple effect throughout the entire offense, from Goff to Gibbs to Montgomery. I mean, you need a stout offensive line. And so I think we got to ask, how is this going to affect the Lions season next year? Because the offensive line isn't just about protecting Goff. It's about setting the tone for the run game. It's about creating lanes, controlling the tempo of games. If the Lions stumble here, we could see more sacks. I know we saw enough of that last season, but we could see even more. We could see disrupted plays, pressures. And it's going to put added stress on this developing offense, and one that's going to be developing under Drew Petzing. Now, on the other hand, if Holmes navigates this correctly, if the front office navigates this correctly, drafts wisely, maybe signs a veteran lineman in free agency, then they could emerge stronger and more versatile than ever before. But it's a very fine line. I want to be crystal clear about that. The margin for error on offensive line is razor thin. And mistakes are going to be costly in the NFC. It's a very competitive division now. And don't forget the ripple effect that this will have on this roster. When an offensive line is uncertain, or you get changes like this, it affects play calling. It affects how quarterbacks manage pockets. It even influences how defenses could approach Detroit. Other teams could see changes and adjust their game plans accordingly. That's why this isn't just a story about Skipper leaving. It's about strategy, risk management, how the Lions want to build the core of their team moving forward. And so at the end of the day, the real storyline is this. Detroit has to make smart, calculated moves this offseason. They're going to need to identify who can step into Skipper's role, whether through the draft or free agency. They're going to need to determine whether Decker remains a cornerstone or if it's time for him to go and open up new opportunities. And they're going to need to make sure, in pretty short order, that the offensive line as a unit stays cohesive enough to protect their investments at quarterback and enables the offense to function at a high level. At the end of the day, losing Skipper is a challenge, but it could also be an opportunity for Detroit. We need to see the Lions adapt from this. We need to see their front office thinking ahead. We need to see that they're ready to build a line that can compete in 2026. I don't want to hear we're good. I did not see that we're good in 2025. Goff got pressured, sacked all the time. It was ridiculous. And so I think fans are going to be watching this move closely. From draft picks to free agent signings, because the offensive line is the backbone of the team. And if they get it right, the Lions could be in great shape. But if they get it wrong, then the season could start to slip away before it even begins. And I know that none of us want that. Now, I think that the conversation about Taylor Decker only adds more weight to this, because parting with a veteran like him would be a bold move. But sometimes bold moves are necessary to set the team up for long-term success. And we could see a ton of changes. This team could look very, very different next year. They obviously still have the talent. They've got new coaching staff, and they have the resources to navigate this, but the next few months are going to be crucial. Now, I know that offensive line decisions rarely make headlines outside of the draft or free agency, rather, but in reality, that's just as important, if not entirely as important, as any blockbuster trade or high-profile quarterback decision. This is a big deal. This is where games are won. This is where seasons are made or broken. I can't tell you how many comments and texts that we've received about how the Lions have to rebuild their line. It's very, very important. It's probably the number one thing that they need. And that's why the Lions' next steps with Skipper gone and the looming Decker question are going to be must-watch stories. Because everything else about Detroit's offense hinges on whether they can keep the line solid, cohesive, and competitive. It's not like they need a running back. They don't need any more wide receivers. They're doing just fine with Amon-Ra, Jameson, and then Tesla, who I don't even know if they really needed to get Tesla, but they did. If this line situation isn't fixed, well, then one misstep and you're going to feel it every Sunday. But one smart move and the Lions might just have an edge in the NFC heading into 2026. So it's going to be very important to see what they do with free agency and the draft and how they're going to go about dealing with these line situations. Keep it locked. You're listening to Midnight Sports Detroit.